Alrighty, welcome back everybody to the 29th week of our Tech Bytes JavaScript session. And if you're coming back from our web development course, welcome back to the 21st week. And as you guys can read by the little subheading right there, this is the last ever JavaScript session which we will be having. It is truly crazy to think about how far of a way we have come, where we start out in the early summer months of June, and how fast the past almost 7.5 months have flown by. It's a testament to see how fast 2020's gone by as well. You know, there's been a lot of things which have obviously happened, but it is coming to an end in the nearby time. And actually, speaking of time, we'll be doing something cool. We'll be doing something cool with relating how fast this year will be coming to an end. So more to come on that. But as always, guys, thank you so much for coming out. We don't. If you're thinking that this is the end of Tech Bytes in general, do not think that. At the end, we'll be going over some of the new stuff we'll be starting up in January. And we got some more things with the hackathon coming up we'll be talking about later as well. So thank you for coming back, joining us for the last ride. And then without any further ado, let's get started. As always, you guys should know who me and Labdi are by now. My name is Ras Siddiqui. I'm a senior at James B. Cohen High School. Love to program, made apps for the App Store websites. About a week ago, just released my first ever book. It should be coming to the Schaumburg Library soon, hopefully as well. It is available on Amazon. You can find it under my name, or you can find it with the book's title called The Switch Up. And then Labdi.
And again, my name's Labdi Jain. I'm new to the program, but I've started teaching for about like a month. And again, I'm really into algorithmic programming and hackathons. Some hobbies of mine are oil painting, singing, sports cars.
Alrighty, so let's get down to today's agenda one final time. We're going to start off with a bell ringer, a cool holiday special Labdi's got planned for us. Then we're going to move on towards our final quizzes for the year. And the main focus with that quiz is going to be looking at loops and sort of encompassing all of the ideas which we have learned over the past several months. But firstly, how about we get to a bell ringer, which is, I think, something we're all looking forward to. The objective, which Labdi will explain.
All right, so the bell ringer asks, again, before we actually delve into the bell ringer, just to reiterate what a bell ringer is, basically a small problem which we will solve using code. And in this case, we will use JavaScript as our language. So what is our problem statement? Well, we have to write a JavaScript program to calculate days left until next Christmas. Well, one way to calculate the days is to just pull up a calendar and count. But if we have JavaScript and if we have JS Fiddle, why not code it, right? So if you open up JS Fiddle, I'm going to share my screen.
Yep, and the link, guys, will be in the chat to the Fiddle where you guys can follow along as we go.
All right. Perfect. So first, let's just add in the basics. First, let's add in our problem statements. We have a single statement. And let's add that in a header. I'm just going to copy and paste that from our presentation. And once we have that, we save and run, and we get that output. Now, for the next thing, we're going to make a button in which we're going to have an on click. And on click of this button, we will call a function calculate. All right, and then we're going to name this button of ours click me. And save run, that appears right there. Okay, now we did call a function in here, but we will first, let me see. Okay, we will first make that function in our JavaScript. So function, what did we call that? Calculate. And well, in this function, basically what we need to do is count the days between today and Christmas Day. Well, in order to do that, we'll need today's date. And JavaScript has a library called date, or a class named date that is already part of the JavaScript kind of language. So we're gonna call that class, and we're gonna set that into a var today. So var today, that's a variable, is equal to new date. So right now, if I console.log today, and I run that.
Hit the button. Right.
Oh yeah, sorry. And hit the button. I do get an object date. Now, in order for us to actually see what that object is and what's the date, we'll need to kind of print out different parts of that object. Well, before we do that, we should just calculate, what we need to do, what the problem statement is. So the first step for that is we set today's date to a date. Now we need to set the Christmas date to a date as well. So we're gonna say var CMAS, short for Christmas, is equal to new date again. But in the parameters, we're gonna put in today dot get full year. And then I'm gonna explain in a bit what this means. 11/25. All right, so what this means is basically today.get full year is the year of today's date. So if I try that again, console.log today.get full year, and I run that, click me, I get 2020. So that's what it, that's what we're putting into that parameter, the year. 11 is the month, and the way months work in this date class is 0 is January, so that 11 is December. So this is December and then 25th. Okay, so we set our two dates, today's date and Christmas date. Now we have to kind of find the difference between them. Well, first of all, we're gonna have a conditional. And in this conditional, we're going to check if today is Christmas Day or not. Well, if today's Christmas Day, then probably the next Christmas Day that's gonna come is next year. So inside this if statement, we're gonna compare if today dot get month is equal to 11. So that means if today is December, and if today dot get date is equal to 20, or not equal to, if it's greater than 25. So basically, if the day is at, or I mean more than on Christmas Day. So if that happens, so suppose it's New Year's, then, or yeah, New Year's, but it's after Christmas Day. So that 5-day gap between Christmas and New Year's, where it's still 2020, but Christmas has gone. So that's when we say Christmas, this variable that we made over here, dot set full year to a number. So set full year basically means I want to change the year of this date that I have created into something else. Well, what do we want to change it into? We basically want to change it into whatever the year is plus 1. So if it's December 27th, 2020, the next Christmas you'll see will be the next year. So December 25th, 2021. Okay, so finally, we're gonna create a var one day is equal to something, a number. Let's just say 1 for now. And then the reason why we're doing this one day is I will explain in a bit. Before that, we're gonna console.log mat. Let's just console.log. Let's see. Okay, let's just console.log. Let's see. Okay, Christmas. So CMAS dot get time minus. So this is the difference that we finally get between the two dates, minus today dot get time. Now what this is going to give is a number. I can I'll take this console.log off, and then this is the only thing that prints. So if we do run this, let's see.
With dot moth.
Oh,
Is it
sorry.
statement? Yeah.
Here we go. Okay, so what we get is a number. We don't want a number. We do want a number, but we want a number that is true. What this is basically it gives the milliseconds that are left between today and Christmas Day, because Christmas.getTime gives a number, and then today.getTime gives a number, and then this difference is again in milliseconds. So in order to convert this milliseconds into good days, we need to first see how many milliseconds are in one day. So there are 1,000 milliseconds in a second times 60 seconds in a minute times 60 minutes in an hour times 24 hours in a day. So there we have the conversion. Now, if we divide this whole thing by that one day, so divide by 1 day. And then before we actually finish with all of this, we're going to math.ceil. And the reason why is because, so suppose today is, what is it today? December 16th. Well, it's already 4:47 of December 16th, but it's still a day that we count when we say it out loud. So in order, so what math.ceiling does is if we have a decimal, so suppose it's 9.4, then it seals it. So basically it converts that into 10. It rounds that decimal up no matter what type of a decimal it is. So I'm just going to say math.ceiling. And then, yeah, basically that's what we see. And this should work. Just to add a string to make it look pretty, we're going to say that days left until Christmas. Okay, and if we don't have any errors, which we do, but it's okay. So math.ceiling, we don't want this to get into, okay, so basically if we don't want to confuse anything, what this code does is it math.ceils all of the math, the numbers, and then just adds a string to that. So if we do run this, save and run, and click me, oh no, let's see.
Are you not dividing cmiss.getTime by 1,000 as well? You got to divide it by.
Aha, I see. Yeah, sorry. So basically, actually it shouldn't matter. Let's see. Let's debug this on the spot. So Christmas.getTime minus today.getTime. Okay, I see. So the difference that, or what we needed to do is we math.ceil just this part and then divide that by 1 day. Actually, just kidding. Oh, okay, so what's happening in here is, okay, so this is a basic Pemdas error that we accidentally made. Basically what we do is Christmas.getTime minus today.getTime divide by 1 day. So what it does is just divides today.getTime divide by 1 day and then keeps Christmas.getTime. What we want to do is put parentheses over this subtraction, so we get one number and then divide all of that by 1 day. Similar to what Rayan was saying. Rayan was just saying to divide Christmas over 1 day, but both of them do the same thing. So if I click, perfect. So I forgot to add an S. So if we do run this, I'm going to clear console and then say click me. It finally prints out 9 days left until Christmas. So guys, in this code, what we used was the major things we used were new date, it's the date class. And then within the date class, we used certain methods that are already made. So .get full year, .get month, .get date, and then finally .get time. And one more thing, .set full year to set the full year. Now we also used mat.ceiling to round any decimal up, and that's basically it. That's it for the bell ringer today. Hope you guys liked the holiday special, and I'll give it over to Rayon.
Yep. So just 9 days, and remember, next week we will be having a no JavaScript course as well, and only on Monday our final Intro to Programming course. Stay tuned for that as well. But now, guys, after our bell ringer has finished, that was a bit more about, although not as much involved with computer programming aspect, it's something cool to see, you know, how we can still relate our JavaScript skills to something in the real world, and that real world aspect being something nearing up so quickly. How about now we get over and play a game of last time quizzes. The link will be in the chat if you would like to join. There it is. Join myquiz.com, and the code is on the screen as well. We'll get started in a couple minutes. Augustus, Avanish, were you able to find the website? Or Augustus, were you able to find it? Sounds good. Great, Avanish, great. All right, awesome. Let's get started. Best of luck, guys. Remember, today's focus is mainly loops, and that's what we shall be ending with. So let's get it. On a hot streak, Augustus. Nice. Alrighty, great job, Augustus, putting us over the 50% mark for 50% accuracy. Congrats on getting that first place. Let's take a look. Avanish, good job to you as well. Thank you for participating. Let's take a look now at our questions. All right, so number one is asking, how many times will the following code print, hello, welcome to JavaScript? Well, we got a while loop right here. So we got a variable which is keeping track and going to be incremented. And we have a variable which is, with this while loop is going to keep on running until the value of our variable count is 10. Now it looks like some of oh, there we go. Okay, it was cut off. So our variable is being incremented correctly. But if this was not, then it will be printed out 0 times. However, now if we think about it, this while loop is going to run, and then it's going to increase the value of our variable. So if I annotate to the side, when our variable value is 0, it's going to print out something. Then it's going to print out something at 1, then something at 2, then 3, and all the way, so I'll just run ellipses, until we get to the number 9, and then till the number 10. However, the reason why it will print out 10 times is because we're including the 0 at a time, meaning this will run 10 whole times, which is why the answer is 10 times. Let's move on to number 2, which is asking, what is the output of the following code? We got a variable which is being less than, the while loop is going to keep on running while the value of the variable is less than 4. We're incrementing the value by 1. Remember, this is a shorthand. A shorthand to that could be just saying x plus plus. that is the same thing as x equals x plus 1. Some cool things to remember. And then we're going to alert the value of our variable at the end. So this is the same thing as just incrementing our variable however many times we've said our while loop should run. So it should run 4 times. A cool trick which we can use is just do the value of our number of times we want to increment minus the value of our variable. And if we do that, we can get the number of times it's going to run. In this case, that is 4 as well. Number 3, what is the difference between a for loop and a while loop? Remember, guys, the main difference is that with the for loop, we know before time how many times that for loop is going to run. It's a definite amount. I can tell you it's going to run 5, 10, 11, a certain number of times. However, the while loop, it's more used when we don't know how many times something is supposed to run. So like say we've got a while loop with a Boolean inside of it, with a true or false. We don't know how many times it's going to run. So that's the main difference. Whenever you hear for loop, you know definitely how many times it's going to run. A while loop is sort of a toss-up. Number 4, what type of loop do we usually use to loop over arrays? Remember, we always want to use for loops and arrays are two things which we always want to connect in our brains. Whenever we have a for loop, we can easily access an array and loop over all of the elements. So the answer is for loops. Number 5, which of the following is an acceptable way of writing a loop? Remember, when we're writing a loop, we need 3 things. We need the variable which we're declaring, how many times the for loop is going to run, and then how much we're incrementing the variable by. So number 1 is correct because we got a variable x. It's going to keep on running until it crosses the value of 10, and then it's going to keep on incrementing by 1. Number 2, well, it got 3 different variables, which none have been declared, so we can't really do that. Number 3, well, we're not incrementing our for loop by anything, so that doesn't really make sense. In the letter D, we have a mixture of variables, which is not what we are doing. Number 6, which of the following is an acceptable way of writing a while loop with a variable of x equals 0? Number 1 is absolutely correct. Number 2 is absolutely correct. Number 3 and 4. So this is a question in which all 4 answers are possible ways of writing a for loop. Number 7, why do we use loops? Well, there's a bunch of reasons. One of the reasons is to go over arrays and quickly do problems, to save time, to write more efficient code, and also to remove items from lists. So lists meaning arrays. Number 8, which command tells us how long an array is? Remember, everybody got this correct. Perfect. Yep. So it's our array name dot length. Dot size is something we use with Java. Size of, that is not a function. And then dot count is with a different language as well. So dot length, remember, is how we can get the length of our array. Great job. Number 9, which loop goes through the length of an array? So remember, if we got the last one, you should be able to get this one. We're going to keep on incrementing our value of our variable, the length of our array. So array.length. All of these other ones have some mistypes and typos in the way we're getting the length of the array. Number 10, how many times does this for loop run? Remember, same formula. This number minus this number. So 10 minus 0 is 10. Number 11, how many times does this for loop run? Let's take a look. So this for loop, you're probably saying, hey, we just went over a problem. They look pretty darn similar. Well, there's one thing missing. This is saying keep on incrementing the value of x until it is less than 10. However, in this term, we're going until it is less than or equal to 10. So whenever I see the word less than or equal to or greater than equal to, I'm always thinking I do the same formula. So 10 minus 0 plus 1, because we have that 1 extra time, which our for loop is going to run at the end. So 10 plus 1 is 11. Very subtle thing we got to pick up right there. Number 12, when we are using a Boolean, which is a true or false variable, which loop do we usually use? Usually we like to use while loops because we don't know how many times we're going to keep on running that loop, right? So in this case, we always want to connect the idea of while loop to Booleans and then arrays to for loops. Number 13, a blank type of loop is used when we know how many times the loop should run. That is 100% correct. A for loop is when we know how many times the loop should run. Number 14, a blank loop is used when we are unsure. That is a while loop. Perfect. And the last question, number 15, does this loop print out every element in the array? And yes, it does, because we're going over the length of our whole array and alerting every element in our array. Now, if this was less than or equal to, that could pose a problem because we're probably going to get an index out of range error, meaning there aren't that many elements in our array. However, if we do it like this, we're getting the length of our array minus 0 times, meaning it's going to go through all 4 of these numbers, 1 through 4. So great job, guys, with our quizzes. And that does, surprisingly, believe it or not, bring us to the end of all of our curriculum. That is the final encompassing quizzes of our JavaScript session. And you're probably thinking that, wow, it's been a lot of videos on YouTube, a lot of resources on Google Classroom, a lot of stuff we've done in general. What is next? A lot of you talk about we're starting up in January.
Yes, definitely. So next year, starting from January, we will start diving into algorithmic programming. A little like kind of intro to what algorithmic programming is basically the bell ringers that we have been doing kind of follow what algorithmic programming does. Basically, you get a problem and you find the most efficient and abstracted solution in code to solve that problem. And we're going to, of course, be discovering new ways using loops, different data structures. Data structures are just like arrays, variables, all of that. And we're definitely going to dive deep into the critical thinking behind any sort of coding, something that will stick with you anywhere you go, even in job interviews, college, anywhere. And then that was for Mondays with Python. Wednesdays, we will continue doing projects in Python. And then Fridays will be gaming hour. And then Fridays will be, I believe that's twice a month, right?
Yep, yes, it's going to be bi-weekly. And just to kick off our weekend, playing some games over online. And we'll even take a little bit of geeking and look at how those games were made. So don't you worry, in case you were thinking that our Tech Bytes are going away, do not worry. We got a bunch of cool things planned for not only January, but the coming months of 2021 as well. Crazy to think how fast that is approaching. And yeah, guys, so some final takeaways from all of our courses of this year. 7 months, it's over. Crazy to think, but the time has flown by. We learned a lot. Stay updated on our Google Classroom. Avanish and Augustus, you guys, I believe, have our Google Classroom code. We'll be pushing out some new updates, posting out the sign-up links for our January programs as well. Remember, we got Team Trivia this Friday, and then we got Intro to Programming next Monday. And then we're going to have a week and a half break for the holidays. Labby and I wish you a great holiday break. Take some time off from school. Enjoy, stay safe, and let's hope for a good start to our 2021. Take care, guys. See ya.
Happy holidays.